In 1809, European sailors crossing the Pacific spoke of New Zealand with a mixture of intense fear and strong attraction. Stories of violent tattooed warriors and cannibalism circulated alongside reports of highly valuable natural resources. The resource driving sailors to take these risks was kauri timber. These trees grew extremely tall, straight, and strong, making them perfect for British shipbuilding. That year, a British ship known as the Boyd arrived in Australia as a convict transport. To turn a profit on the return voyage, the vessel sailed east to New Zealand to take on a cargo of these timber spars. Among the crew was Tara, a young Maori man and the son of a local chief. He worked aboard the Boyd simply to secure passage back to his homeland in Whangaroa Harbour. The ship's economic mission required strict adherence to British naval hierarchy, a rigid system that made no exceptions for Indigenous royalty. During the voyage, a dispute erupted between Captain John and Tara. While the exact trigger is lost to history, the result was swift. The captain stripped Tara of his possessions and intentionally starved him. The punishment culminated publicly on deck. Tara was bound to the ship and flogged with a cat of nine tails. Under British maritime law, strict physical discipline was a standard, legally sanctioned method to maintain absolute authority at sea. Tara operated under an entirely different system. As a chief's son, he held mana, the Maori framework of spiritual authority, social standing, and power. His mana was sacred. The captain believed he was enforcing standard labor laws. To Tara, being bound and whipped was a catastrophic destruction of his mana. Because the crew misunderstood Maori culture, they believed the dispute was settled. They were entirely unaware that the destruction of Tara's mana demanded an absolute, deadly cultural response. In December, the Boyd anchored in Whangaroa Harbour. Tara reunited with his father, Chief Pepio, and revealed his heavily scarred back. Chief Pepio suppressed his immediate anger, following his son's advice. The Maori feigned a peaceful, routine trade relationship for 3 days, completely disarming the British crew's suspicions. Maori guides then invited Captain John and his officers deep into the forest under the guise of inspecting timber. Once isolated, the British men were swiftly overpowered and killed. The attackers stripped the dead officers of their clothing. Wearing these items as disguises, they approached the anchored ship undetected under the cover of night. Hearing familiar voices, the watchmen welcomed the disguised warriors aboard. This opened the ship to hidden canoes that swarmed the vessel, systematically dispatching the crew and passengers. The British reliance on their presumed authority blinded them to the elaborate trap, transforming a routine commercial stop into a meticulously executed massacre. With the ship grounded, the Maori began looting the Boyd's cargo. They specifically targeted the vessel's store of muskets and gunpowder. Handling unfamiliar powder stores proved dangerous. A warrior accidentally sparked a flint near open gunpowder barrels, triggering a massive explosion that killed Chief Pepio and burned the ship to the waterline. 30 miles away, Alexander Berry, a supercargo on a neighboring ship, received fragmented rumors of the massacre and launched a desperate rescue mission. Arriving at the wreckage, Berry engaged intense diplomatic negotiations with local chiefs. He secured the release of the 4 remaining survivors, a woman, 2 children, and a teenage apprentice. Berry's mission extended to the ship's official logbook and letters. In the 19th century, these physical documents were the only legal proof of the ship's destruction required by its owners and insurers. To extract them, he held 2 chiefs captive and staged a mock execution, refusing to spare them until the papers were delivered. Berry successfully salvaged the human survivors and the historical record, but the smoldering ruins of the Boyd had already ignited a fuse of deadly rumors across the Pacific. The horrific details of the massacre spread rapidly from ship to ship. With every retelling, the accounts grew more exaggerated and salacious. This unchecked rumor mill led to a catastrophic case of mistaken identity. The accounts pointed the blame squarely at a pro-trade Maori chief named Tapahi, with reports converging on his village. Tapahi was entirely innocent of the attack. In fact, he risked his life attempting to rescue the European survivors during the initial massacre. Operating on false information, a coalition of European whalers launched a blind, devastating retaliatory attack on Tapahi's village, killing dozens of innocent Maori. By acting on fear and rumor rather than investigation, the sailors inadvertently adopted a chaotic, blind form of vengeance that only poured gasoline on the cultural fire. Severely wounded by the Europeans, Tapahi directed his remaining warriors to retaliate against the Whangaroa tribe, who actually committed the Boyd massacre. Tapahi died from his wounds during this final assault, effectively burning out the immediate, bloody cycle of physical retribution. News of the Boyd terrified Europe. New Zealand's reputation collapsed, and maritime trade with the islands slowed to a near-total freeze for almost a decade. As the initial panic subsided, early settlers and observers began to re-examine the tragedy with a focus on its cause. They moved past the rumors of random savagery to identify the flogging of Tara as the specific catalyst for the violence. This gradual recognition of Utu as a predictable system of cultural justice, rather than mindless aggression, allowed diplomatic relations to stabilize. By the late 1810s, trade and contact had safely resumed. The tragedy of the Boyd proves that overwhelming firepower cannot stop a cycle of violence. In this conflict, resolution only came by overcoming cultural ignorance,